Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is Tuesday, December 21st, 2021, and today we're going to be taking a look at the state of New York, with all of the eyes on the Democratic side focused on this state that is expected to be a very contentious one for the 2022 redistricting election cycle, primarily because this is the last stand and the last stance for the Democratic Party to display their gerrymandering efforts in this state. Now, the reason why I point this out is because looking at our congressional map and our redistricting cycle that we have known so far, the state of California today, as I mentioned in my earlier video, seems to have all but approved their brand new congressional maps. All it has to do is move forth through the state legislature, and considering that it takes all of the Democratic incumbents and draws them into districts and allows them to have enough congressional districts that they are in all Biden plus 10 or more districts, means that they probably are going to go ahead and get the state legislature to approve it, and then thus it becomes enacted into law. And knowing that, the state of California, the largest state in the union, now has solidified its congressional maps, which leaves just a few states. Texas is already taken. Florida seems to be discussing their preliminary drafts and seems to be circling around an answer when it comes down to this map. So the Democratic Party no longer has California to ride on, but now is expecting the state of New York to come through and counteract some of the losses they have seen in other states that were supposed to be drawn in more favorable ways than they actually were drawn in the end. And looking at the state of New York, this gives the Democratic Party a full and total control, considering that this is a process that needs to be approved simply by the state legislature. They have maps of their own, and with those maps, they approve them with a 2/3 vote and then send it to the governor, Kathy Hochul, who will ultimately, in every scenario, sign off on these new districts and put them into law. And if you're wondering, yes, New York does have an independent commission, but it is non-binding. The state legislature does not have to listen to them and can choose to enact their own maps. And that's what has been done. The state of New York does not have some type of binding law that forces the congressional map to be simply drawn by these commissions, as you might see in states such as Colorado or Virginia or even California, which confirmed its maps today. So New York is one of the only populous states where the Democratic Party has complete and total control over the process itself and can draw it in any singular way that they would like to. So let's go ahead and take a look. Looking at the state of New York right now, the Democratic Party is working with what have been put forth by the redistricting commissions together. They have two maps. They call them the names draft plan and the letters draft plan. Now, neither of these two are going to be listened to, primarily because they give the Republican Party too much to win in 2022 and years beyond. In the most recent names draft plan, you can see that what this does is remove two Democratic-leaning seats, already a red flag for Democrats, in a state that's already losing a congressional district. So in the Democratic Party's eyes, they're looking at this and saying, we're going to remove a Republican district, as we did back between 2010 and 2012. I'll show you that in just a moment. But looking at this map already, not only does it not remove a Republican district, it actually adds one. So it takes away two from the Democrats, not even using the lost district for the Republican Party, and instead adds another Republican-leaning district. And while this may be more representative of the state's partisan breakdown and partisan ideology, at the end of the day, the Democrats are in control, and they do not like this map. That's why it wasn't put forth and confirmed. This map has been out for practically months at this point in time. And taking a look at the map, you can see what it does is solidifies some of these incumbents and puts them into beneficial districts, and takes already Democratic districts such as the 17th congressional district, and instead of making it a more solid district, you're taking a district that was previously Democrat plus 17 and making it Republican plus 5. So they're cracking up and drawing up these districts to put some of these incumbents in, and ultimately making it so they no longer are able to win there, or at least it makes it a lot more difficult. And at the end of the day, the one thing you should take away from this is that the Democratic Party does not like either of these two potential plans, and they simply won't be going forth with them. And if they won't go forth with them, this allows the independent commissions recommendations to be completely disregarded and a new one to be put forth. And that's why everyone, and I mean everyone, is focused on the state of New York, because there is just so much at stake. Taking a look at the map right now, the majority of the districts in New York are considered to be solid Democrat. They have an additional 2 lean Democratic seats. But looking at the amount of toss-up seats, you have 3 pure toss-up seats. And looking additionally, you have 4 lean Republican seats and 3 solid Republican seats. Now, what is this translated to? What are the actual results of an election under this old map? Well, in the most recent 2020 presidential election, there were also House elections. And in those elections, the Republican Party won a total of 8 seats and the Democrats won 19. Now, ironically, the state of New York actually has one of the better forms of representation in terms of overall House composition. While this map is gerrymandered and New York City is cracked intentionally for a reason, you still see here that Republicans receive 8 districts, giving them a total of about 30% of representation, with them winning 36% of the popular vote. Democrats win 62% of the popular vote, 19 congressional districts, and that gives them a total of 70% in terms of representation. So while the map isn't perfect and it doesn't perfectly capture the sentiment of the voters in the state of New York, it gets a lot closer than a bunch of other states that have just finalized their maps. But with these 8 districts that you have seen, 7 of which were already declared to be lean or safe Republican districts, that means they've won 1 additional toss-up district, there actually is discussion about making this map a heck of a lot worse for the GOP. And FiveThirtyEight explains everything that's been happening in the state of New York, but the final thing that they leave off on, and it's something that will be the center focus of this video for the remainder of it, is that given that we are generally expecting Republicans in the Sun Belt to pick up House seats through gerrymandering, and Democratic-controlled states like California, Virginia, and Colorado have independent commissions that can't be overridden, Democratic gerrymandering in New York is one of the party's only avenues for picking up seats through the redistricting process. Since New York Democrats are plenty aware of this fact, the final map they may enact may be closer to a 23-3 Democratic majority. Imagine that for just a moment. Democrats won a total of 19 seats in the 2020 House elections. Republicans won 8. In this new situation, it would bring it to be 23-3. Because because New York has lost a congressional district, not only would this be taking 1 from the GOP, but it would be reducing their total number of representation from 5 all the way down to 3. From 8 all the way down by 5 to 3. That is a dramatic change. And if you're wondering, Democrats can't do that. They don't have a way to do it. The map has already been drawn for them. Dave Wasserman, a House editor from the Cook Political Report. He is known as Redistrict on the website Twitter. Very well-known name, very well-known guy. I use him in my live streams to talk about whether or not a certain race has been called or not. But looking at this map, you take the current map, which is 19 Democrats and 8 Republicans, and you draw a brand new one and give them just 3 seats on this new map. 3 seats, the 23rd district, the 21st district, and the 2nd district. You are essentially cracking this as much as you can. In addition to that, you are picking out and pulling out certain rural areas to ensure that New York remains a blue state through and through, and you can see this on this brand new map. What this does is essentially removes the Republican Party's total number of representation and shoots it down to 3, something that is absolutely unbelievable, but at the same time, totally believable. And if you're wondering, okay, maybe the map's there. Maybe the Democrats have the power. But are they gutsy enough? Have Democrats displayed this level of gerrymandering before? And I kid you not, this happens every single census year, including this one. The state of Illinois just released their maps just over a month ago, and the Democrats drew this one. This was one of the few states with a large population that Democrats had complete and total control over. Well, the state of Illinois already lost a congressional district, so we knew that at least 1 Republican district would have to go. Let's take a look at the old map before we look at the new one. The old map gave the Republican Party 4 safe districts, meaning that they were able to be fine in plenty of these southern region districts. In addition to that, they had the 13th congressional district, which was considered to be a lean Republican district, which meant that in a blue wave year, potentially Democrats could have won there. In the neighboring 17th district, while there was a Democratic incumbent, it had a partisan lean of Republican +5. So had this map been through 2022, Republicans would have had an opportunity to pick up there. And then in the 14th district, Lauren Underwood's district, Republicans had a 3-point advantage in these districts. So based off of the toss-up districts, the lean districts, and the safe districts, the Republican Party had a total number of about 7 districts that they could have solidified in 2022 had this map been applied, giving the Democratic Party a total of 11, putting them much closer to fair representation than what they are about to be put forth with now and what I'm about to show you. So, do Democrats do stuff like this? Absolutely. They gerrymander states into oblivion, and they did so in the state of Illinois. On this brand new map, instead of making it fairer, the Democratic Party took the 5 total districts the GOP had, the 7 total that they had advantages in, and cut it down to just 3. I kid you not, just 3. Now Republicans have to face off against each other in some of these districts. The 16th district has 2 Republicans now. The 17th district, the 12th district has 2 Republicans, and the 15th district, as you can see, very clearly cut up and through Springfield for a reason. The 15th district is now considered to be a safer district for Rodney Davis, but still a district that is not fair for not fair for the Republican Party, and that gives them their total 3. Because even this toss-up district, which you might remember as previously being Republican +5, is now Democrat +4 with a Democratic incumbent. And remember, Lauren Underwood, she is now in a Democrat +7 district. And plenty of these districts, while may be competitive right now, are drawn in a way that in a normal year, they all go to the Democratic Party. And they are all cracked straight out of the city of Chicago. And these are drawn intentionally. This is meant to be a Democratic gerrymander. So now looking at New York, we see this as something that Democrats might have an opportunity to draw a map 23-3. They could truly make it so the GOP gets little to no representation. And 23-3 is something that we can actually see as occurring in years past. In 2008, there were 26 seats that the Democratic Party had, and the Republicans had 3. Now, knowing this is not as bad as 23-3, but it actually is a bit worse, and there were more congressional districts at that point in time. Coincidentally, there were actually 3 more congressional districts at that point in time. And Democrats had 26-3, meaning that the GOP had very little representation across the state of New York. Was this the result of partisan gerrymandering? I don't know. Since the beginning of the 21st century, this map used to have Republicans in control. At one point in time, they had 10 total Republicans, and that was in the 2000 midterm elections, 2002. Then in 2004, the Democratic Party advanced one. But looking at the change between 2002 to 2006, you can see how the map got increasingly worse for the GOP. But the Republican Party actually drew some of these districts in order to gerrymander them, in essence, but it really didn't end up working. In 2010, the Republican Party picked up a bunch of seats. Then the Republican Party was cut out of 2 districts because the Democrats lost 2 across the state. The state of New York lost 2 districts, and this is what I was showing you. The reason why partisan control is important when you lose congressional districts, because that partisan control, that incumbent party will always ensure that the opposition party is the party losing those districts, not the incumbent party, because this is a perfect example. 2010, right as the census is being occurred, and there are discussions about what's going to happen next, 21 Democrats, 8 Republicans. Fast forward to 2012, 21 Democrats, number stays the same, but just 6 Republicans. And this is the map that we have been sticking with. And through the elections, through 2014, 2016, 2018 even. I mean, you can see the difference from 2012, 2014 to 2016 to 2018. The Democrats don't even get as close as 23-3, as they now will under a brand new map if they choose to go down that avenue. And I honestly would not put it past the Democratic Party. This is their last position in a populous state to draw a map extremely unfavorably for the GOP. And given the Democratic Party's outward spoken, I guess the way they treat some of these congressional races, referring to people, failed candidates, former congressional candidates, and former congressmen, such as Max Rose in the, I forgot exactly what congressional district. Let's go ahead and check it out here. The 11th congressional district, who won back in 2018, then lost in 2020. Ultimately, Kathy Hochul called him the future congressman from the 11th congressional district. These are words that are utilized in a way that indicate that some type of map is going to be drawn in a way that that district is no longer red, right? That some of these districts are no longer going to be solid red, light red, lean red. Democrats have the opportunity to draw a map that is 23-3 and cut down on 5 Republican seats, giving Democrats overall the net ahead when it comes out of redistricting. While there is a lot of discussion about whether or not they will actually be as brutal or not is a topic for another video. But I think that at this point in time, from what we've seen at least so far, in states where Democrats have been unchecked and go unchecked by the courts, by the state legislature, by the governor, that they will draw maps as aggressively as humanly possible. And do I put it past them to Illinois, New York? Absolutely not. Because they've seen what happens in Ohio when Republicans have the same amount of control. And Democrats are just going to argue, Republicans have done it for the past 10 years, so it's our turn, and we are going to do that in the state of New York. And I think that that is what we are going to see. I think it's very possible, very probable that we see a 23-3 map or a 22-4 map, something extreme, something reducing the amount of Republican seats, all in an effort to game the system and benefit themselves on the national numbers. But at the end of the day, it's politics, it's wrong, it shouldn't be happening, but it is something that we do need to talk about because that's just the reality of the American political system. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to comment down suggestions below, subscribe on the left if you haven't already, and check out the Instagram and Twitter. At the bottom left of the screen, there's also a Discord server for you to go ahead and join. On the screen, there's a video you can watch, and then a playlist for my redistricting election analysis videos. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all tomorrow.